Those members of the public and press who have joined us today for the meeting of the Cabinet. We have a number of stentorian tones, mate, that's all it is. We have a number of important issues to consider at today's Cabinet meeting, but before we begin the formal meeting, I have some housekeeping information I'd like to share. First, please be aware this meeting is being live streamed and that a recording of the meeting will be available to view on the Council's website. Excuse me. Second, the Council allows filming and photography at its public meetings, so please feel free to take pictures and post to social media during the meeting if you so wish. Third, can I remind everyone please to either turn their mobiles to silent or vibrate whilst the meeting is taking place. And finally, in terms of housekeeping notices, there is no fire alarms test schedule for today. So if the alarm sounds, if it's a constant sound, please leave by the nearest marked fire exit and proceed directly to the fire assembly point. If it's an intermittent sound, please stay where you are and wait further instruction. Without further ado, item 1, apologies for absence. Dan, can I call on you as our Democratic Services Manager? Do we have any apologies for absence, please?
None received, Leader.
Thank you. Item 2, declarations of interest. Does any member wish to declare any disclosable pecuniary interest or non-statutory disclosable interest? You should have already have declared these, but is there anything we should be aware of? No, thank you. Okay, item 3, minutes of the 12th of November. Item 3, is the approval of the Cabinet meetings on the 12th of November. We're being asked to approve the meetings of the Cabinet of the 12th of November 2024 as an accurate record. If any member does not agree, please raise your hands now. Okay, thank you very much indeed. Item 4, petitions and public questions. Dan, do we have anything?
None received.
Okay, thank you very much indeed. Okay, item 5, council tax bates, which is pages 9 to 14 in your agenda pack. It's the council tax base for 25-26 and the collection fund declaration of 24-25. Councillor Mohammed Jamil, Cabinet Member for Finance and Corporate Governance, will you be kind enough to introduce the report, please?
Thank you, Leader. I would. As the report says, this is a necessary part of the preparation for setting the Council's budget for the year 25-26. To begin with, I just want to clarify that this report does not make proposals for how much council tax residents will pay from April. That is a decision for the new year. This is very much a technicality, albeit a vital report for Cabinet to consider. You will notice from paragraph 4.7 that there is a deficit on the council tax part of the collection fund, and at paragraph 4.10 it shows the council's share of this to be just over £0.442 million, for just over £400,000. This deficit is largely arisen due to the high level of historic debt. Plans are included within our proposed budget to invest in this area to address this so we can try and get some of that money back. There is also a deficit expected on the business rates part of the collection fund, as you will see from paragraph 4.8, with the council's share of this being £6.3 million, as outlined in paragraph 4.11. This is largely due to a surge in rating appeals, as the right to appeal the rateable value on the 2017 rating listing closed to new appeals on the 31st of March 2023. A growth in business rates having slowed due to the early usage of employment land in the local plan, the conversion of buildings to residential use, and delays in the valuation office agencies' valuations, incorporating into properties into ratings. And there's also been an increase in empty properties, leading to an increase in the cost of empty property relief. In respect of the proposed council tax base, I wanted to draw your attention to a few key points. There are just over 92,000 properties within the council's boundaries on the valuation list, with 64% of the properties falling in the lowest two council tax bands. The council tax base equates to just over 63,000 Band D equivalents, which is an increase of 1.6% compared to the current year's tax base. And lastly, the council tax premium charge for second homes will increase from the 1st of April 2025, in line with the maximum allowed within legislation. Following that brief introduction, I ask that Cabinet agree the 4 recommendations set out within the report. Thank you, Leader.
Thank you, Councillor Jamil. Members, we will move to questions and debate. Do members of the committee have any questions, please? Councillor Kayam.
Thank you, Leader. I noticed in the report there was highlighting the business rates, and we know that there are quite a few units that are empty in the city centre. Could we clarify, please, our position on a council with reference to business rates flexibility? Do we have that, or is this determined elsewhere? Thank you.
Cecilia.
Thank you, Leader. So business rates are set nationally by the Valuation Office Agency, the VOA. We collect business rates locally and pay it over to the government, and then it's redistributed on a formula basis. So we get about half of it back. We have no discretion to reduce the rates, the rateable values that have been determined by the VOA. We have a small pot of discretionary relief that we can allocate if businesses meet the criteria. But it's very limited what we can do locally to do anything to help businesses with business rates, unfortunately.
Thank you, Cecilia. Consent?
I think that's a really useful point to make. Often, I think people don't have the understanding of where this is actually set, so I'm really glad that you've clarified that point. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Kerr. Councillor Cole.
Thank you, Leader. You said that there's been appeals based on the council tax or business rate allowances. What learning points have we gained from those appeals, and so we can ensure that we don't have quite so many appeals in the future?
Cecilia.
Thank you, Leader. So there's nothing we can do about the appeals either, unfortunately. So the rateable value is determined by the VOA. Appeals are submitted to the VOA, and appeals may be approved on the discretion of the VOA. When an appeal is successful, we have to repay any overpayment of business rates plus interest. And there have been some significant appeals, which is partly the reason why we got this collection fund deficit. I think it's important to stress as well, the collection fund may be in surplus, it may be in deficit. It depends where we set the collection rates. So we will adjust this in future years. We don't have to find the money, physically find the money. There is a shortfall in our budget, obviously, with the business rates that we had assumed we would collect our proportion, but there's not money that we don't have to find the £6 million in cash.
Thank you, Cecilia. Are there any other questions? In which case we move to debate. Is there anybody who would like to speak on the debate? Or are we content with the questions that we've asked? I think the only thing that, it's not really a debating point, is the fact that does this reflect a national picture as much? I suppose it is a question, Cecilia, it's just...
Not necessarily the deficit that we have, but the downturn in business rates, I think, is a national issue. The world has changed after COVID. People work from home. Businesses don't need the same business premises as they had before. The retail sector has been hard hit. So the world is changing. So yes, I think the big picture is a national one.
And as an authority, I know that we're looking into that. Adrian.
Thanks, Leader. Just, if I may, just to give some assurance to Cabinet, an awful lot of very focused work is now underway to redress the challenges that Cecilia is describing that emanate largely from COVID. So a lot of work to target empty premises, but also to attract new employers into the city, new businesses, that will then increase our business rate base once again and hopefully reach, if not exceed, our targets. Just to provide some assurance.
Excellent. Thank you very much indeed. Reassuring. Any other questions, debate, or shall we move to recommendations? Okay. In which case, colleagues, we've been recommended to, number 1, propose the calculation of the council tax business base for 25-26, set at a level of £63,069,059 pounds. PAMD equivalent properties based on the existing council tax support scheme. 2, to note the estimated position of the collection fund in respect of council tax as at the 31st of March 2025 being a deficit of £548,000. And note the estimated position of the collection fund in respect of business rates as at the 31st of March 2025 being 12.833 million deficit. 4, to note these estimates positions to note these estimated positions with the Executive Director of Corporate Services reserving the right to amend, as she described, the final estimated position on the collection fund as at the 31st of March 2025 in accordance with the statutory determination, legislation and timescales. Forgive that last bit. Chair, are we content to agree the recommendations? Agreed. Thank you. Item 6, budget consultation, which is pages 15 to 52 in your agenda pack. Item 6 is the budget consultation 25-26 launch. Councillor Mohammed Jamil, Cabinet Member for Finance and Corporate Services, please introduce the report.
Thank you, Leader. Leader, today Cabinet is being asked to launch a budget consultation to give residents and stakeholders the chance to have their say on the Council's budget proposals for 25-26. And at the moment, they are just proposals. This is the second element of what we've done. The first was when we did the roadshows, asking residents up and around the city their views on what they would like to have their council tax spent on. The proposals set out how we will look to close a £23 million gap in our budget. The document also provides an insight into the significant financial challenge for this council, caused by huge increases in demands for service such as adults, children's social care, housing and education, the complexity of care and support required, the high interest rates which are pushing up the cost of borrowing, and the price of supplies and services. These challenges aren't isolated to Peterborough City Council. It is a national picture, but what makes it more difficult for us to respond to these is our lower reserve balances and the high level of borrowing costs. The proposed budget will see us continue to focus spend in areas of greatest need. Care for elderly and vulnerable, support for children and families who need our help, and help for those in housing crisis. In doing so, this does mean that there are some really difficult decisions that have to be considered, such as ideas around the Lido and our library services. These are not decisions we want to make, but we have a legal duty to set a balanced budget. I would just like to remind everyone who's watching today that these are just proposals at the moment. No decisions have been made. In light of the challenge, we are also asking residents for their views on the possibility of maybe raising council tax beyond the referendum limit of 4.99%. Again, not an easy decision for us to make. However, as a responsible council, we have to ask the question. With your approval, a consultation with residents of Peterborough and our stakeholders will commence today. The comments that we receive will then be considered by the Joint Scrutiny Committee on the 29th of January 2025. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Jamil. We'll now move to questions. Any questions? Councillor Jones.
Thank you, Leader. You've just mentioned about the council tax. Can you just tell me how likely it is that there could be a council tax increase over the year, as there's various data and figures that are actually in the document? Thank you.
Matt, please.
I'm sure Cecilia will comment as well, but the government has put out a policy statement around balancing the finances for the sector, and within that document in November they set out the prospect of councils having some flexibility, but we had confirmation last week that we feel it's probably unlikely that we will be allowed to increase above the threshold, primarily is because we're not seeking exceptional financial support. So there's about probably 30 councils which are in the midst of seeking government support. We're not one of those. So just to put it in context, I think it's extremely unlikely that we will be, putting council tax up above the limit, but it is, as Councillor Jamil has said, it's normal practice to consider these options, and we have put that forward to the cross-party group. But I'm just emphasising, I think it's extremely unlikely. We are due to get the financial settlement tomorrow from government. We are assured that should come in, and we will be working through the detail and to see the implications and where that puts Peterborough. But we are hoping that that will be a positive picture compared to what we've seen in previous years.
Thank you, Matt. Councillor Jones, you
Yeah,
content?
no, thank you for that clarification. That's great, thank you.
Okay, Cecilia, have you anything to add or? No, okay, that's absolutely fine. Any further questions from members before we move to debate, please? Just highlighting the fact that these are proposals. It is a consultation document from today going through to the 14th of January. Okay, Councillor Cole.
Thank you, Leader. So within the document and the proposals, what would be the process if people, say, put a request in that the Lido isn't considered? As you said, things in there are not set in stone. They are for consideration. But what is the process for people to share their views with the proposals in the document? What do they need to do?
Councillor Jamil.
Yeah, as I've stated, these are just proposals. It's a consultation document, and literally we're consulting on views. So if people have strong views on any aspect of what's in the document, you just respond and you give your views, and council will consider the views, and then we will have to then set a budget. So at the moment, you know, we're just taking in people's views. Nothing's, you know, we're not saying we're going to close, we're not going to say anything. At the moment, we're just consulting. Please, everybody who's got a view on whether it's the libraries or the Lido or whatever, please send in your views, and then we will consider them.
Yes, you can respond to the document, and we've already encouraged people to engage. Thank you, Councillor Cole. Thank you, Councillor Jamil. Anybody wishing any other further questions before we move to debate? Okay. Councillor Thorborn.
Just remembered. Thank you, Leader. Just a quick question. The proposals are just that, proposals, and they will actually come to fruition through the consultation towards the end of January. Would you agree with me that tomorrow or whenever the government do the settlement is the key element that will solidify all the different proposals that we're putting forward?
Councillor Jamil, thank you.
It is. Tomorrow's settlement will probably be the first stage of how we're going to have to go down with what's, you know, the budget will be. We have a financial sustainability working group, so anything will then go through the group itself, and that, as you know, is an all-party group. So we're kind of hoping that we'll get a good settlement tomorrow, and then we go back to the group and take into account some of the responses to the consultations, and then just move forward from there. But really, the key is tomorrow's settlement.
Thank you, Councillor Jamil. Is that okay, Councillor Thorborn? Yeah. Thank you. Any debate before we move to the proposal? Councillor Cahill.
Thank you, Leader. I'd just like to make the point that actually we are all all aware that this is a council that is comprised of 60 councillors that all have a responsibility to ensure that we are delivering on a balanced budget. That's the legal requirement that we have to meet, and it's not a political or a Labour thing, and I just wanted to make that point during the debate section.
Thank you. It's a point well made, given some of the columns and rhetoric we've seen. Thank you. Any other comments or items before we move to the proposal for the recommendation? Councillor Jones.
I suppose all I would like to say is that obviously there's an awful lot of very valuable information in here, and it's great and it gives that transparency of figures. So I really would like to encourage people to submit their views and their thoughts to us to help in that bigger picture.
Absolutely. There is a lot of information, and there's some contentious issues that we have to consider in order to balance the book. So, yes, I completely endorse that statement. Anything further? Adrian.
Apologies, I wasn't going to say this, but I will, just to add to the context. Just the Lido has been mentioned a number of times this afternoon. I just wanted Cabinet to know that we will be proactively reaching out to the friends of the Lido group during the consultation period to hear their views and to, consider ideas that they might have as part of a future for the Lido. So again, just by way of reassurance, I guess.
Thank you, Adrian, because I know we've had a lot of contact with the Friends in recent months, and taking their views into account will be is very important, actually comforting as well, to be fair. Anything else before we move to the recommendation? Okay. In which case, the Cabinet is recommended to approve the launch of the budget consultation 25-26 from the 17th of December 2024, closing on the 14th of January 2025. Are we agreed? Thank you. Thank you. Item 7, which is pages 53 to 56, Opportunity Peterborough. The next item is a report regarding Opportunity Peterborough that has been referred to the Cabinet following shareholder Cabinet. Can I ask Councillor Nick Thorburn, Cabinet Member for Growth and Regeneration, to present this report, please?
Thank you, Leader. I would. Opportunity Peterborough Limited is the city's economic development company, having started life as an urban regeneration company in 2005. Over its 19-year history, the company has supported the growth of hundreds of businesses and the creations of thousands of jobs across the city. In February 2023, the Opportunity Peterborough team was transferred into the council to support the creation of the new Growth and Regeneration Service. Now that the team is fully integrated into the council and in line with the CIPFA recommendation, it is proposed that this is the right time to wind up the company that is Opportunity Peterborough Limited. I would like to take this opportunity to thank many people that have worked for the company over the years, driving forward inclusive and sustainable economic growth in our city, and in particular the various directors of the company who voluntarily gave up their time to provide advice, guidance and oversight to an organisation that has brought great positivity to our city. Thank you, Leader.
Thank you, Councillor Thorburn. I agree and concur with you wholeheartedly. This is a recommendation, please, from the shareholder Cabinet for our approval. Are there any questions before we move to the either debate or the recommendations? I think it has been debated previously through shareholder Cabinet. And if there's no other questions or debate, I'd like to propose an amendment to the recommendation set out in the report to take into account of the 5 dormant subsidiary companies of Opportunity Peterborough. The recommendation is agree to the proposal that Opportunity Peterborough Limited and its 5 subsidiary companies be wound up and authority be delegated to the Executive Director, Place and Economy, to undertake all necessary actions to wind up the companies. Are we agreed? Thank you. Item 8, pages 57 to 60, Key Theatre Programmed Works. Item 8 is a report regarding programme works at the Key Theatre. Councillor Jamil, will you be kind enough to take us through the report, please?
Thank you very much, Leader. The Key Theatre is a popular part of the city's cultural scene and is much loved by residents, particularly at this time of the year. And then hopefully going forward, it will be a popular destination for the whole year rather than just part of the year. Following the discovery of rack at the venue last year, the replacement of the auditorium roof is now essential. Additionally, the replacement of the life-expired heating, cooling and extract ventilation systems will ensure continued operation of the theatre and that we are compliant with our requirements both as a landlord and the regulatory requirements that we live by. The planned works are due to be undertaken from June 2025 onwards, and this will require the auditorium to be closed for around 16 weeks. This has been pre-agreed with the operator, Landmark Theatres, to reduce the impact of losses for both the operator and for the council. Ultimately, these works will secure the future for the Key Theatre, ensuring it remains a vital asset within Peterborough's leisure and cultural landscape and a safe, welcome environment for everyone to enjoy. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Jamil. I confess to being a great fan of the Key Theatre, not only for the theatre itself, but actually for its locations. Wonderful location on the embankment. And so just remember the Key Theatre isn't just for Christmas, it's for all the year round. Any questions? I think Councillor Jones.
Thank you for that. Obviously, there is a cost implication to this. Can you just explain, please, how it's going to affect our current finances and the bearing in mind situation that we're in?
Cecilia, in your position as S151 officer, please.
Thank you, Leader. I think my voice is just about to go.
Sorry.
It's fine. This is capital expenditure, and it is covered in the capital programme. 1.5 million is covered in the current year's capital programme, and there's another 600,000 bid that has been approved in next year's capital programme. So there is a capital moratorium in place at the moment, but this is compliance and health and safety work, which is an exception. Oh, thank you. Which is an exception to the moratorium. So there is money set aside for this work. It is essential work, and the operator wouldn't be able to have pantomime in the Key Theatre without this work being completed in due course.
Thank you, Cecilia. Any further questions? Councillor Cole.
Thank you, Leader. It says that the works are going to take 16 weeks. I'm not hugely experienced in the building trade, but I know that there are things that can go wrong and cause delays to works. What are we going to do to ensure that it stays on track? And if there are any other financial implications, if the period of time building works extends beyond that? Because I've noticed in the paper it says that they can claim back for their costs for loss of income. So what are we going to do to ensure that they build and finish when we say?
An apposite question. Cecilia, thank you.
Thank you, Leader. And we're very lucky that we have property colleagues who are much more involved in the detail than me, who will be very happy to answer that.
Property is smiling, so would you like to... Do you have a microphone, or are you just going to shout up? Yeah, we are recording, so we'll provide a microphone. Thanks, Christian.
Is it working? Okay. I'm Rachel Huns, Head of Compliance and Capital Programmes. So we have built a 2-week flexibility in that 16 weeks. So the planned programme of works is actually estimated to be 14 weeks. We've built the flexibility of 2 weeks in for the closure. We are on track on the programme. We are due to go out to tender mid-January. So as long as we continue to hit our targets within the programme, we should deliver on time. There is a clear understanding from the people involved in this that we are not able to go over that date, because we then start impacting their ability to deliver the panto for next year. So it's a key period for us to deliver by.
Okay. Thank you, Rachel. Any other questions? And is there anything anybody would like to debate? No? Councillor Hogg, even though this is a cabinet meeting, are you getting your microphone back or do you actually want to ask a question?
Sorry, it was to ask a question, and sorry for kind of dropping on this on you, but something did kind of drop out to me on this. It says in the report that...
Hold on 1 second for me. Yeah, I think what we've done is... You are an attendee, and I do appreciate it. I wish there were more people who came, but you do need to seek, because this is obviously is the cabinet meeting, and as not a member of the cabinet, then the protocol is you seek permission to do that. So it's just following the protocol. I will allow it, but let's play the game to the best of our abilities.
Thank you, thank you. I'm hoping this might provide a bit of a solution. So it does say in the report that the interim solution may have some life in it, but they need to have a look at it. And what I'm thinking is that this is a just over a £2.2 million investment, which would give a revenue impact of £220,000. What I'm thinking is if we delayed this works by a year, that would provide us with half the figure that is currently we're looking to save on the, or as a suggestion, on the Lido. So what I'm suggesting is that Cabinet may feel that actually we could maybe get away with a year's pause on this, to still keep the Key Theatre running, but basically free up £200,000 from the revenue budget to help with that budget gap, as it were, with the Lido.
Point made and taken. I'm not sure get away is quite the phrase, the most apposite phrase. And I think my understanding is this is work that has to be done under health and safety from a capital grant. But can Cecilia, would you, or Adrian, would you like to confirm that? Is that a reasonable proposition, or how are we fixed?
It is my understanding that this work needs to be done, and there wouldn't be any merit in delaying it. It could easily cost another 300,000 or 400,000 if we delay the work, if the building deteriorates further. So I wouldn't recommend that we do that.
Yeah, and I think given the fact that it is health and safety work in a, you know, given the sensitivities around Rackham, it's a noble sentiment. But
So the idea was not to, for the Cabinet today to say actually we'll delay it by a year, but to maybe a pause to wait for the full budget implications to come out, but also to have a, because it does say quite clearly in here that the RAC interim solution was designed for a 2-year period. That is not to say that the solution will not be longer lasting.
We'll take it in the round.
Yeah.
Point made and taken. Thank you. Any other questions or debate? Yes? You're taking the microphone back to Rachel. Okay. That's right. I can't see Rachel behind Adrian's head. I'm sorry.
That's fine. I was literally just going to clarify the position in terms of any delay. So as I said at the beginning, we've got a tight deadline for going through the key stages of the procurement. So any delay will then delay that procurement period, which will then delay our start on site time. We have got losses associated with the period of closure. That period of closure has been pre-agreed with the Key Theatre for quite a period of time. So any delay in that programme would still be eligible for losses, because they're not going to be able to pre-book now shows in to fill that period.
That's a good point.
In addition, obviously, the other works that have been identified, as Cecilia says, is compliance works, and you run the risk of, if we're not able to deliver them on time, we run the risk of a reactive closure, which would be an unplanned closure because the equipment fails, etc. So we do need to progress with this as quickly as possible.
Thank you, Rachel. Noble sentiment, but I think under the circumstances, I think we'll, we have to demur on that one. Okay. Are there any other further questions or debate? Thank you, Councillor Hogg. If there's no further debate, the committee is asked to acknowledge the planned works required at the Key Theatre and delegate authority to Cecilia Booth, the Executive Director of Corporate Services and our Section 151 officer, to award the contract for programme works at the Key Theatre following a procurement compliance competitive tender exercise as previously stated. Do we have agreement from the Cabinet? Thank you. Item 9, excuse me, Ningate School Extension. Item 9, which is pages 61 to 66 in your agenda pack, is a report regarding extending Ningate School. Councillor Katie Cole, Cabinet Member for Children's Services, will you be kind enough to take us through this report?
Thank you, Leader. The Council has a statutory duty to provide a school place for every child living in its area of responsibility who is of school age and whose parents want their child educated in the state sector. To achieve this, the Council must keep the number of school places under review and take appropriate steps to manage the position where necessary. In Peterborough, PCC's absolute priority is that children and young people achieve the best outcomes possible and go on to succeed in further learning and in work. Crucial to this is the way that we work with schools and partners to plan and deliver a good quality place in learning. The Council has a proven track record of working with a wide range of education providers to commission sufficient places to meet the needs of Peterborough's residents and is committed to continuing this approach into the future. Peterborough currently has one specialist school setting able to meet the needs of children and young people with significant social, emotional and mental health needs. Ningate School, which has a published admission number of 48 but are currently at capacity. Planning and engagement with Meridian Trust for an expansion to Ningate School has been underway for over 12 months, led by the increased demand evidenced in data. The Trust has agreed to accept 40 additional pupils over the current published admission number and require a new block of 5 classrooms to be built to deal with the capacity. This project is being funded by the High Needs Grant and will be delivered by the Trust and monitored by the Council. If approved by Cabinet today, the project will commence in early 2025 with a plan of opening ready for September 2026 intake of pupils.
Thank you, Councillor Cole. Are there any questions from members of the Cabinet? Okay, I think it's reasonable. Councillor Keum. Thank you.
Thank you, Leader. Just needed to look to your left-hand side, that was all. I'm one of the ward councillors, actually, for the area in which Ningate School. I'd just like to make the point. First of all, I'd really like to thank the officers, Rachel Floyd and Chris Pike, for giving ward councillors time to discuss these plans in great detail, and we also had the opportunity to question them on various aspects of the plans. I think we all recognise that SEND provision has risen, the need for SEND provision has risen exponentially, and I think for purposes of this Cabinet, where it is being publicly viewed, I think we really need to bring home the fact that this is cause for us to actually celebrate, and I'd like to resonate that and communicate that to our residents too. Now, there are just 2 points that I'd like to highlight, if I may, and would request that that is followed through, that we confirm that because of the congestion, notwithstanding the fact that we've got 2 extra schools there in the area, that we are mindful of the traffic congestion at school pick-up and drop-off times, and that officers have stated that they will have a look at different access points for drop-off and pick-up times. That was the first thing. And the second thing is, will this have an impact on our school transport infrastructure that we're already providing for SEND children? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Cummins. That's a very valid point, actually, for people living and working in that particular area. Who'd like to pick that up? John, thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Leader. I'm delighted to see this report here today at Cabinet, and would want to echo the comments made by the lead member for Adult Services in respect of the hard work that's been undertaken by officers across a number of departments to bring this to fruition so quickly. In relation to the questions about congestion, we will absolutely take that away and assure ourselves that the access points are as appropriate as they possibly can be on the site, recognising that this is critical provision to allow the council to deliver its statutory duties. In respect to the second question around home to school transport, I'm delighted to be able to share with the Chamber today that this will absolutely have an impact on our home to school arrangements, infrastructure and of course budget, as what we will see over time is a significant number of children who currently are transported outside of the city boundary, educated locally, which can only be good for their outcomes and will improve the budgetary pressure that we face in that area. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Music to our ears individually and collectively. Councillor Cam, are you happy with that?
No, I'd just like to congratulate everyone and also Cabinet for supporting this. I think it's a wonderful venture, and as ward councillors, there would be no such joy than to see local children being educated in a local facility, and I'd like to publicly call for our residents to support this as well.
I couldn't agree more. Thank you very much indeed, and thank you, John. Councillor Cole.
Thank you, Leader. I just wanted to say that during our meeting with the officers, we, both ward councillors and myself, asked that residents within the surrounding area were notified with good time so that they are able to make arrangements with either parking or access to their area, and that was something that was agreed during the meeting with ward councillors, that the council would write to the immediate residents to ensure that they are aware of what's happening.
Excellent short-term, hopefully short-term disruption for much longer-term gain, I'm sure we'll all agree. Any other further questions or debate before we move to recommendation? Thank you. Okay, so Cabinet is asked to 1. Authorise the school extension at Ningate Academy. 2. Agree the project budget as set out in the exempt annex to this report. 3. Agree option 2 as set out and the delivery options at 4.3. 4. Delegate authority to the Executive Director for Children and Young People Services to authorise the award of contract for the works, subject to approval from legal, finance and procurement, or allocate funding to the Academy Trust. 5. Delegates authority to the Executive Director for Corporate Services in consultation with the Director of Legal and Governance to take all necessary steps to give effect to the recommendations, including entering into any necessary legal agreements. Are we agreed, Cabinet? Thank you. Item 10. This is pages 67 to 74 in your agenda packs, disposal of the goods shed. Item 10 is a report seeking authorisation for the disposal of the goods shed on Fletton Quays. Councillor Mohammed Jamil, once again, can we call upon your services as the Cabinet Member for Finance and Corporate Services to take us through the report. Oh, no, it's you now, is it? Sorry, Nick. I must learn to read the script. Right, we'll start that one again, okay? We can cut that bit. Item 10 is a report seeking authorisation for the disposal of the goods shed on Fletton Quays. Councillor Nick Thorburn, Cabinet Member for Growth and Regeneration, would you please take us through the report?
Thank you, Leader. Of course I can. Thank you very much. The Goods Shed development is one of the 8 projects to receive money from the city's £22.9 million Government Towns Fund programme, and one of the remaining undeveloped sites on Fletton Quays. The goods shed will be highly visible along the riverbank to vehicles and pedestrians, creating a natural marketing opportunity for the building itself and the city centre beyond, and enabling those greater footfall levels, social value opportunities and low carbon narrative in this emerging area of the city. The land and the building is to be sold to Far Holt Good Shed Limited, a new company with food and beverage operational and property development experience. This is a private sector development, however grant funding is being provided to remedy a market failure which makes it difficult for the private sector to fully fund the investment needed. The project will deliver incubator space for new and existing food and beverage businesses. This is a conditional transaction subject to planning. If planning is granted, we envisage the facility opening in 2027.
Thank you, Councillor Thorburn. Absolutely delighted to hear, and let's look forward to that opening, and that will be some development. Any questions from any members on that? Reasonably straightforward, but any other questions? Any debate on the matter? Councillor Jones.
Thank you, Leader. I think other than to say this is a really exciting project and will make such a transformation to that area that we desperately need to see. And I, for one, I'm looking forward to being at the opening.
I couldn't agree more. I couldn't agree more. Yes, thank you. Councillor Keogh.
I'm just going to make a bit of a quip here. Will council staff or councillors be entitled to a discount when this is up and running, may I ask?
I would sincerely hope so, Councillor Keogh, but we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. No pun intended. You see how I did that? Okay, I don't know, but we can but hope. Any other further questions or debate? In which case, Cabinet is asked to 1. Authorise the disposal of the Goodshed building for £250,000 plus VAT. 2. Authorise the award of grant funding to Farholt Goodshed Limited for £1,895,000 relating to the development of the Goodshed Fletton Quays. And 3. Delegate authority to the Executive Director for Corporate Services in consultation with the Director of Legal and Governance to take all necessary steps to give effect to the recommendations, including entering into any necessary legal agreements. Cabinet, are we agreed? Thank you. Item 11, approval of the parish charter, which can be found on pages 75 to 92. Item 10 is a report seeking Cabinet approval of the parish charter. He says, turning his script over. Councillor Alison Jones, Cabinet Member for Housing and Communities, will you be kind enough to take us through the report, please?
Thank you, Leader. Yes, this parish charter is an updated version of our current charter and sets out and formalises the relationship between the City Council and the parishes of Peterborough. It provides a framework for how all forms of local government within the Peterborough local authority area can work together to provide services, support and engagement for our residents. The Charter highlights the importance of the role of the parishes in representing their communities, helping to enhance the relationships at both parish and City Council levels. Through the Parish Council Liaison Group, the City Council will continue to explore new ways of working and opportunities for commissioning service to better the needs of the local parishes. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Jones. For somebody who's not represented or in a ward without a parish council, but I am aware vicariously of the work that they do right across the city, and I do appreciate that. Are there any questions from members on what I hope is a relatively straightforward and supportive document? Adrian.
Not a question, but I just thought it might be opportune to point out how on the front foot this council is being in regard to this charter, because in the local government devolution white paper that has just been published, there's a section in there that describes government's intention to see stronger community arrangements when reorganisation happens, if reorganisation happens in the way councils engage at a neighbourhood or area level. The government will also rewire the relationship between town and parish councils and principal local authorities, strengthening expectations on engagement and community voice. And I think the timing of this report today is somewhat perfect given that intent.
Completely apposite under the circumstances. Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Councillor Cole.
Thank you. This isn't a question, but I just wanted to take this opportunity to thank all of our parish councillors that we have across the city. They work really hard, often holding full-time jobs as well as maybe being a councillor or working within their communities. They know their communities, they know what's right for their communities, and as Adrian just said, this is quite a we're quite a forward-thinking council in terms of parish councillors, and I think we'd be poorer without them.
That's very kind. Yeah, thank you for that. Any other questions or debate before we move to recommendation? No. Okay. In which case, the Cabinet is asked to simply approve the draft parish charter and adopt the principles of ways of working across the council. Are we agreed? Thank you. Item 12, last but by no means least, roadmap to net zero. Item 12 is a report that presents the council's roadmap to net zero. Councillor Angus Ellis. Where are you? Oh, you're there.
Thank you, Leader. I'm on the
Cabinet
left.
Member for Environment and Transport, will you be kind enough to take us through the report, please?
Okay, thank you. The roadmap to net zero sets out a pathway for the council to decarbonise by 2030. It identifies actions the council could take to reduce emissions from its buildings by improving energy efficiency and installing low carbon heating systems, from its transport by using biodiesel or purchasing electric versions when vehicles need replacing, from its lighting by continuing to install energy efficient bulbs and looking at motion activation, from its waste by looking at opportunities to reuse, borrow and recycle, from its procurement by introducing carbon-focused policies, and by supporting staff to reduce emissions through information and education such as carbon literacy training. The steps outlined in this roadmap would reduce the council's carbon footprint by 78% from the 2018-19 baseline. Additional unquantified measures along with advances in technology are expected to help reduce emissions further. Adoption of this roadmap does not commit the council to financial spend, and external sources of funding will be sought to achieve decarbonisation, with grant funding prioritised.
Thank you, Councillor Ellis. Do we have any questions? Councillor Jones.
Thank you. Obviously, this is very important and it's a really good route that we're obviously taking. But the one thing that got mentioned was about funding. Could you just confirm to me what sort of funding we've already secured for the roadmap journey that we're on? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Jones. Cecilia, are you look primed and ready to... Hannah, I'm pleased you're there, Hannah, because I want to mention you in a minute. Thanks. So come in on that one.
Yes, so we've received quite a bit of funding from Salix Finance to develop heat decarbonisation plans for the majority of our highly emitting buildings. So they outline options for energy efficient kind of fabric measures, as well as the installation of low carbon heating. And we're working with the property team to develop plans and we'll seek funding to deliver those measures into the future. And we've been really successful in developing those plans previously. We have some costed kind of calculations for the continual delivery of the kind of actions in the roadmap. But we will seek to apply for funding, and so therefore we will kind of look at what opportunities are coming up into the future and kind of direct our focus to those available opportunities.
Thank you, Hannah. You okay with that, Councillor Jones? Yeah. Any other questions? Councillor Thorburn.
Just thought of one, sorry. We talked about property and all the different properties we've got and lots of grant funding. So community-run properties that we own or lease out, are we going to support them in the transition to net zero? I'm thinking of a number of buildings that I know that would need that support. So them grants, are they not just coming here, but they're actually going to those as well?
Yeah, okay, fair question. Hannah, would you like to come back on that?
Yes, absolutely. So can actually tell you about a funding opportunity from the Combined Authority called Net Zero Villages. And that is available for any community group or community organisation which is based in a rural area and they can apply for funding to decarbonise the building. So that could be on the energy efficiency of the building, low carbon heating, or solar panel installation or solar battery installation. And actually nicely tying into the parish council charter, we are liaising with parish colleagues to share that information and to kind of launch a scheme with our colleagues. So that's kind of going to be launched in the next couple of weeks.
Thank you, Hannah. Councillor, you okay? All right. Any other questions, please? All right. The reason why I mentioned you, Hannah, is I did, if you remember, I did the pilot carbon literacy training. So, you know, passed at the second attempt, but we'll gloss over that for now. And I can highly recommend it to anybody who wants to do it. It's enjoyable and incredibly useful. If there's no other questions and no other debate, can I ask the Cabinet, please, to endorse the roadmap to net zero and recommend the Council adopts the roadmap to net zero? Are we agreed? We are agreed. Thank you very much. In which case, thank you, members, officers and those in attendance. It now remains for me to close the meeting, and in doing so wish everyone the compliments of the season and a happy and prosperous, and I do mean prosperous, new year. Safe journey home. Thank you.